Well. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Move podcast. We're going to talk about the 110th edition of the Tour de France. By the way, JB, you know this. You reminded me of this. The 7th edition of the Move podcast.
It's hard to believe.
7th season. Look, pretty good. By the way, this year's all the episodes of the Move this year covering the Tour is brought to you by Ketone IQ. We talk about them a lot on the show, of course, widely used in the peloton. I'm Lance Armstrong. To my left, joined by JB Hager. Over there, a guy who looks like he's a year older.
That is right.
50 and a day, Mr. George Hincapie. Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you, Lance. It's great to be back.
How was last night?
Last night was good. We just had a nice, relaxing
Well, the photo
evening.
that you circulated this morning, I was a little concerned.
A nice, relaxing. No, come on. I know you blew it out. It's a big birthday.
Yeah, it's a big birthday. Yeah,
People
not gonna
make-
lie.
well,
Not
people-
gonna lie. I had a bit of anxiety this week, waking up every day thinking that I'm hitting the 50s.
Why?
And like you just said, we've been here for 7 years. I was in my low 40s when we started.
We didn't bring you on until a couple years in.
Yeah, that's true.
We dipped the toe, had you come on a couple times. We didn't know how the audience would react. You know, it's I have no idea what it's like these days to be, say controversial shit. And I've decided I'm going to find something really polarizing to do next on the forward. But also joined by Spencer Martin, and he's actually here in person, and his partner in crime, Johan Bruyneel. Johan, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to be back, guys. Excited for the next 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Now, this is the first time we've had this complete ensemble on a show.
It is.
It is. I'm excited to have Johan and Spencer on here. These guys are, our go-to sources. They know everything about all the stages, the routes, the profiles.
A lot more than us.
Before all of our shows, we always send them text messages like, hey, send the notes because they got it down. So thanks, Spencer, for coming in.
And of course, and we'll talk about it a little later, and maybe we just do a little mini version of outcomes for the audience. But Spencer and Johan, of course, host our sports betting show called Outcomes, which, like any other sport in the world now, and if you're in a state or a country where sports betting is allowed, you can, without going through, the guys that if you don't pay your debts, they might really take your lunch money. But these guys have it dialed. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that later because yours truly put down some action. But before we talk about this really, I think, really, really exciting tour, the 110th, so many things to talk about. Let's do a little business. Today's show brought to you by Caldera Lab. Here's the deal. First impressions matter. There are no two ways around it. What's the first thing that someone notices about you? Well, in my case, unfortunately, it's the face. And in George's case, fortunately, it's the face, your skin. And if you're not there already, it is time to put your best face forward. By the way, Caldera Lab, clinically proven to reduce wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging. That is, I am starting to pick up some stuff. This 50 thing on you, George, is a thing.
It's looking good on me, right?
Caldera Lab is a leader in men's skincare and is here to save the day. Use our exclusive code, THEMOVE, at calderalab.com. That gets you 20% off. Again, the exclusive code is, like always, one word, THEMOVE, at calderalab.com. And that gets you 20% off. Also today, brought to you by AG1. You've heard us talk about this a lot, too, in the past. Of course, early days, this was called Athletic Greens. They've now tweaked the name a little bit, AG1, because it isn't actually, and this is a true story, it's not just for athletes. This is something that I think all of us have put into our daily regimen. The other thing I love doing about AG1 is just sort of sharing the gospel of it. I've gotten so many people on this product. It is literally something that, and a lot of the really smart people and the super optimizers, it's actually twice a day for them. But check this out. It's got 75 high quality ingredients that give me daily key nutrients and support energy, focus, strength, and clarity. Covers all my nutritional bases for the day, and literally couldn't be easier. And by the way, as I talk about this a lot. I haven't gotten any better on the vegetable thing. This is my hack. This is my vegetable hack. Mom, are you listening? I finally figured out a hack. No more broccoli, no more corn, no more red peppers, no more all that stuff. It's all there. It's a comprehensive solution and what you need from your supplement routine. Go ahead and try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/themove. Again, that's slightly different than we've talked about in the past. That's drinkag1.com/themove. Well, let's get into it. This is Johan, I know it's late for you over in Europe, so we'll throw to you first if you're starting to doze off. Just give us all your wisdom early on so that you can just hang up or fall asleep. But we can't leave the show without two things. One, obviously, you have, I think, the biggest brain when it comes to certainly the sport, but especially for the Tour de France. But also, you got the scoops, right? Everybody wants to know the scoop. What are we hearing about this particular tour? How certain riders either suits or doesn't suit? Obviously, there's a lot of questions. I want to get to some of those at the end. But what are you hearing?
Well, I mean, it's not a scoop, but just a little bit of research I did.
That sounds like a scoop.
We have the big question. We all know it's a two-man race. The two guys here on my background, Jonas Vingegaard versus Tadej Pogačar. The doubts that we have is Pogačar ready? You would say he had not a far from ideal preparation for the Tour de France. On the contrary, Vingegaard was super, super strong in the Dauphiné. So I think I found the answer to that question, and that is that Pogačar is very, very, very ready. He only did two races, the national championships in Slovenia, time trial and road race. He won both of those, of course. But rather than the first place, he won the time trial, which was a 15.7 kilometer time trial, uphill time trial. He finished the race in 29 minutes, 43 seconds. Exactly the same time trial he won in 2020 when he won his first Tour de France. Also the Slovenian championship. He did that in 31 minutes, 10 seconds. So he was 1 minute, 27 seconds faster than 3 years ago on the same course.
And
so
the conditions
is very, very ready.
And conditions were similar. Obviously, you think about those things with weather or wind.
Yeah, but it's a climb. So,
but no, I mean,
1 minute.
I don't know about the wind blows on climbs too. But yeah, anyways,
it's a very closed-in climb, like tall trees next to you. Maybe you could have a little bit of wind, but I think it's immune from a lot of variables. It's deep forest for almost the whole course.
This is what, Spencer, this is what we love. I mean, who knew?
I went and rode the course to get ready.
Spencer rode the climb.
Most mornings.
Spencer rode the climb.
No,
right?
yeah, exactly. Most mornings this month, I woke up and I thought, I wonder just how the trees were on the Slovenian time trial course, and is it protected? I mean, how dense are the trees? Because I've been wondering about this.
It's quite dense.
Okay, yeah. And if I had to guess, Jesus, all right.
I'm curious, Johan. We'll stick with you leading this off. Of those two, we'll talk about other contenders here in a moment. But the two,
other contender.
I know the big two. Where do you think they are in mental strength, like mental preparation? I feel like Pogačar has a bit of an advantage on that category. What do you think?
Well, what I think is that for Jonas Vingegaard, this is a different Tour de France than he's used to the last two editions, because he comes in as the big favorite. He comes in as the sole leader of his team. He was sharing responsibility with Primož Roglič in the past. So that's different, a lot more pressure. The question is, how is he going to be able to handle that? I mean, all of Denmark has mobilized, all the media, they have, they're in full force, present in Bilbao, and will be there for they're cycling mad in Denmark, and having the defending champion will, of course, add to that attention. So the question is, how can he deal with that? But I think he's doing a pretty good job. His team is also able to shield him quite a bit from, but of course, this is the first time he starts where all eyes are on him. It's his race to lose. Pogačar is already used to this, and he comes as the underdog. So it's going to be interesting to see how both of them deal with the attention.
Well, not only that, but I feel like the approach to both riders' seasons have been so different. Jonas has taken a much more traditional approach, not racing that much, doing the traditional races leading up to the Tour de France. Where then on the other hand, you have Pogačar, who wants to win every race he enters. Johan and I ran into his director at the start of Tour of Flanders, and he's like, we can't control the kid. Every race he enters, whether it's the Ruta del Sol, Tour of Flanders, he wants to win. And how many races did he win this year? Percentage-wise.
I think it's
something
like
ridiculous.
19 starts, 12 wins. Something it's over 50%.
So the approach is completely different. Obviously, the one head-to-head battle they had this year, Pogačar came out on top. Is that correct? In Paris-Nice, was it Paris-Nice? Paris-Nice.
Yeah.
Came out on top. You could see there was a lot of nerves going on in there. So I think it just adds to the excitement and the build-up of this Tour de France. It's going to be really fun to watch.
And of course, Johan, we all know, and most people know, this is also a team game. If now we're talking about two guys, obviously on two really good teams, but if you had to look to the team, right, UAE or Jumbo, I feel like Jumbo has the upper hand, but
I think so too. I think in quality they are very strong, both. The difference that I see Jumbo-Visma versus UAE is that Jumbo is a better trained machine around Vingegaard. They have done more races together, and they have more experienced guys with a Van Aert, with Laporte, with Van Baarle. They have really strong riders. I think UAE has the horsepower too, but mainly through circumstances. They haven't been able to race together around Tadej Pogačar in the lead up to the Tour. So I think that's definitely an advantage for Jumbo-Visma, especially in the first week where it's usually chaotic and you have to have these experienced guys and kind of automatic reactions within a team. And I think that's probably a little bit the disadvantage of UAE. I think Jumbo-Visma has the upper hand there.
I agree with you, Johan. It's on paper it would be a disadvantage, but Pogačar, we've seen him. Tour of Flanders, he had maybe one or two guys with him. It doesn't really matter. The guy can stay in the front.
Well, overall,
he can battle up a position. He's got Matteo Trentin back this year, which last year obviously they lost him to COVID. Who, in my opinion, is going to be a huge factor in this first week. Maybe not tomorrow because it's such a hard race, but a guy like that, an experienced classic rider like that, you want on your side for the first week to 10 days of the Tour de France to keep you calm, keep you in position, saving energy. This is a very, very important man for him in the next 10 days.
I think, and Johan, you touched on the first week. For those who haven't gone and looked at the profile, of course, we talked about this many, many months ago when they announced the route. It was interesting for me. What is it? They announced it in October. It's been over half a year to go back and look at it. You kind of forget these things. Boy, this is not your normal tour. Most tours, in our time, you sort of say, I'm a couple pounds overweight. We'll get through the prologue if there was a prologue. And, we got a week up in the north of France. We'll lose, we'll sort of get fit, right? And find the right form. This one, anybody that shows up with everything I just described is out. Like, this shit is so hard right away, starting tomorrow. And the first, and by the way, they do a little sentimental flat stage after they get out of the Basque Country, but they go straight into the Pyrenees. The first six days are just absolutely diabolical.
Yeah, that's going to be not the first. We all know the first stage of the Tour de France. Every single rider in the peloton is super stressed. They have a very high probability of crashing. One, but it's typically not going to be a selective stage. It could be a hard finish, but maybe a short uphill finish, like it was a couple of years ago. This is a selective stage where we could very well see 40, 50 guys, maybe maximum coming to the finish line.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some, or less. There's going to be some serious selection going on. And we all know you get to the start of a grand tour, like you said, Lance, sometimes people go in, relax. You kind of ride into it. That can't happen this year. But even the guys that aren't relaxed and show up super fit, they might just be blocked the first stage. They might have a bad day. So we could see some really strong potential GC guys lose some time tomorrow.
No, it's the pencils better be really sharp right away.
One of the things
I think tomorrow is we're going to see a head-to-head already Vingegaard versus Pogačar on the last climb. Now, if they make it to the finish, of course, that's a different story. But it's 3,500 meters tomorrow. I mean, for stage one, that's
never happened in 110 years. That's never happened.
So
I don't think
about that.
Johan, I got a question for you. Like tomorrow's battle, you have Jonas and Pogačar. You as a director, if you feel like your guy is going really good, do you want him to show all of his cards tomorrow, or do you want him to just follow the first guys? What would you do with your leader?
What I would do, for example, with Pogačar is I would say, okay, you just follow, you just ride, and he can still win the stage because he's fast, but definitely not show how strong you are. I'm afraid though that they can't control. I'm afraid though that they can't control him. That he's going to show. I mean, he's my favorite for tomorrow's stage, by the way, Pogačar.
And
I think he wants to come in.
Let's talk about it. First stage of the Tour de France in the Pays Basque. We're going to pull up the profile and sort of a video of the climb. Think about the amount of people that are going to be on this last climb. So it's going to be almost hard to control yourself because it's going to be wall to wall, thousands of people on this last climb of the Tour de France.
But you know what? Let's jump into tomorrow. I was just going to say before we get to tomorrow. But let's just, since we're here, and let's stay on it. So and thanks to our friends at Strava for providing a lot of this cool stuff. And again, if you're listening to the show, sorry, you should probably be watching on YouTube, or we'll listen twice. Listen now and go home and watch it on YouTube. We're going to have a bunch of cool stuff this year in terms of graphics. And by the way, is Joe Natali going to be back with some of this stuff? I can only imagine after the last month I've had what's coming up.
If he's recovered from his stolen bike, remember that?
He got it back.
Right. Oh, good.
I thought he got it back. But if you're watching, and if you're not, just bear with us. I guess Spencer, you know how climbs through trees work, but I guess there's a road through there. and this is obviously, and if you are watching this, and if you haven't been or even seen images of this part of Spain, this is a very, very special part of Spain. The people themselves, the culture, the pride. It's they love cycling, they love food, they love the arts. Obviously, the Guggenheim there in Bilbao, where the race will start. It's amazing, but it's gorgeous. Yes, typically, it rains most of the year. It looks like the weather's going to be good, but it's to me, it's probably the most beautiful part of Spain. But let's just go back to that cycle. So you see there, I mean, super, super rugged terrain. And then go to the next slide.
Well, before you go to the next slide, go back for a second. What I see here, yes, you see this incredibly steep climb. What I'm looking at is the run up to this climb. I mean, look at this. There's all tiny roads. There's not one straight section of more than 300 or 400 meters. So the battle for position, although it would probably be a bit smaller of a peloton at that point, but it's still going to be, a classics World Cup style for position.
Yeah, it's going to be like Tour of Flanders going into a climb.
Oh my God. Day one of the Tour de France.
You think that KOM's going down tomorrow?
I don't know. Sam Bennett has it.
Already went down. It went down today, by the way. So
no. By who?
By Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert went like 15 seconds faster.
Just shaking the
Wait a second. I thought you said, whoa, back up.
Wow.
Just as Kanye says, rewind that. All right. That's a scoop. Why is he out?
Yeah, just don't drop it. It's no big deal.
We asked for scoops. And you're just going to drop that on us. Wout van Aert, the day before the Tour de France starts, goes out and breaks Sam Bennett's KOM on a hard-ass climb by 15 seconds.
It's Sean Bennett, not Sam Bennett.
Whatever.
Lance. It's not Sam Bennett. Sean Bennett.
No, go back. Let's see.
Different guy.
Okay. Anyways, why is he out just testing the legs?
What made that indicate? That might indicate what we saw on stage 3 last year, where they just threw a huge lead out and Wout van Aert rides away from the whole peloton.
Good point.
So while we're talking about Wout van Aert as the defending team, are we going to see the Wout van Aert show like we did last year, or is he going to have to be more focused on the GC efforts?
It seems like the talks, Johan. To me, it seems like the talks are they're going to try to hold him back to do more work for Jonas. But how do you hold a guy like that back, Johan? What do you think?
Well, he has said himself that first of all, he has no ambition for the green jersey. I personally think that he may get it anyway by being there all the time. Because, but it is clear that Jumbo-Visma has changed their strategy and their approach, and that they want to come into this Tour de France as the favorite team and 7 riders in service of one leader. All by sometimes respecting Wout van Aert's chances whenever it presents itself, but they're not going to go look actively for stages for Wout van Aert to win. And apparently he's agreeing with that, because he is focusing on the World Championships, which are shortly after the Tour.
By the way, tomorrow, as tomorrow's stage goes, he has the perfect excuse to be there. I mean, this is, by the way, that's not the finish of the race. Well, we just looked at that climb, and we'll look at the other, the profile of it. But it's in Vingegaard's best interest that he is there. And clearly he's, I don't know, out setting KOMs the day before the Tour. So this, I found this on Twitter. This compares tomorrow's final climb, which is, if you can pronounce it, you're better than me. And then Roche Falcon or whatever, and then the Mur de Huy, which most folks who follow cycling know very well from Flèche Wallonne. And when you watch Flèche Wallonne, you think, golly, this climb is steep. This thing is, they're just everybody out of the saddle, giving it everything. Mur de Huy is roughly the same length, almost exactly the same length, is 10% on average. This climb tomorrow, 12.3%. So if you've ever watched Flèche Wallonne and watched the Mur de Huy, this is harder.
Yeah.
It's going to be nuts.
And another scoop. Sorry, man, the scoops keep coming while I'm talking.
Sometimes, next time, just write them down so that, they come up first.
Today, Jonas Vingegaard was trying out single chainring in the front.
That's never gone poorly for Jumbo.
I don't know. That's thank you. This is not the time. Okay, no.
Okay, that's what he did.
Look, I love my guys at SRAM. That makes me nervous. But hey,
I don't know. It doesn't make me nervous. That's all we ride.
That's because you were literally comatose from your 50th birthday party. Nothing can make you nervous.
Think about when we mountain bike and think about when we ride gravel. Yeah. We only use single, one chain ring in the front.
No, but we're just going off the Giro, and maybe there were the circumstances that caused that chain to go off.
Yeah.
Before we keep talking about this, and then also I want to get into the to Spencer and Johan's show Outcomes, because and if y'all have watched it, they kick ass on that. So today's show also brought to you by Roka. This is these are shades, right? Whether it's sunglasses or right here prescription eyeglasses. By the way, I'm still at 2.0s. You guys, if you've been a loyal listener for 7 seasons, you saw me trend up. I haven't gone to 2.25s. Cool. Thank you, JB. Appreciate it. I thought you'd say something nice. But they've invented a completely different category of eyewear, right? Glasses that are optimized for performance. They're super lightweight. The lenses are incredible. Obviously, the reading glasses, super stylish. Also, the titanium aviators, which are my favorites. I pretty much don't go anywhere without those, including inside airports. Like I walk through the airport with my Roka titanium aviators on. This is a true story. I'm not talking about the ad anymore. This is a true story. And whenever I go in airports, I try not to go in many airports anymore. But when I do, Anna and Grace, if they're with me, they get like 10 steps behind me, and I'll have my hat pulled low and my Roka aviators on, and they'll back up like 10 steps, and they'll this fucking trick drives me crazy. They go, "Oh my God. Is that Lance Armstrong?" And they're fucking screaming through the whole terminal. This is a true story.
I've heard this. I love it.
And let me tell you something. Them glasses come off so fast. It's just.
That's funny.
Oh my God.
They're on family punking you.
Oh, I tell you, it's been a rough couple months. First I went to Mars, and then I tried to piss off the entire everybody. The other thing I did mention, by the way, great folks based down there in Austin, Texas. They're just making the best stuff. The Move listeners get 20% off. Just go to Roka, that's ROKA.com. Again, that's Roka, ROKA.com. Enter the code THEMOVE, gets you 20% off. And as a title sponsor is HVMN, of course, the makers of Ketone IQ. Most of the Peloton is using Ketone IQ. It's been a big game changer. As you can probably tell, I'm a little jumpy on the show today. I slammed this bad boy right before the start, and I feel it. How's your COVID brain coming? Is that going away?
Man, I know you guys talk often about the physical performance, but the mental clarity.
Yeah,
the science is there, and it has helped a lot. Yeah,
they launched Ketone IQ years ago. improved the taste, improved the efficacy, and got the cost down, which has been a real thing. Early on, it was very different. The other thing, speaking of the mental clarity, is it actually crosses the blood-brain barrier, which not a lot of people know. So, and it's also now available at Sprouts throughout the U.S. You can save 30% off on your first subscription order of Ketone IQ over at hvmn.com/themove. Again, that's hvmn.com/themove, and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. And our good friends at Ventum, also our sponsor this year, finally got George on the NS1 and the GS1. I saw in the back of the car when you pulled up that you brought that custom one.
Yep. I actually asked our head of HR which bike should I bring, and she said I had to bring the custom one.
Well, guess what? You're going to have to wait a little bit.
I heard you got one.
I got a new one, and I'll just give you a little teaser, okay? All right. It may be orange, all right? So, but the damn thing is a rocket ship. We rode this morning. Well, all of us were on Ventum's. Amazing team, amazing customer service, and a bunch of stuff. Dia was telling me today on the ride, he's actually headed to the Tour de France. He's going to come on the show, I think, and give us some insight. But also, they're working on some interesting stuff.
Nice.
I'll just put that out there. Dia never rests. Also getting married in the fall, so congratulations to him and his crew. By the way, they wanted me to ask you, so never mind. You got the custom bike. You're here to kick my ass. I have been training.
I heard. By the way, the man knows exactly what time I'm arriving. What does he do? He's like working out, lifting with a tank top on. He's all buffed out, yoked. That's how he greets me to show how fit he's gotten over the last.
That's not.
When was the last time I saw you? In April. And we were in Tuscany together, and now all of a sudden he went on this new health kick.
He hadn't been drinking.
4 times a day, hasn't been drinking.
Yeah.
I'm in for it. It's like the Aspen boot camp
Let me just, and we are talking about Ventum. Of course, we had our Ventums in Tuscany, but I will leave you with this, or on that little stung. George said to me at the end of the Tuscany trip, because I was hanging, I was getting it, and every day I got better and better and better. I told these motherfuckers, I said, listen, another week, and nobody hangs with me. And he says something like, if you lost 5 pounds, you're really strong. He said that to me. I swear to God. I was like, I literally left. I was like, oh, okay. That's.
I do not remember saying that.
He's probably the only person that could say that to you that you'll stay friends with.
You 100% said that. You said if you could just lose 5 pounds, you don't remember. Anyway, so then I went off to Mars and lost 8 pounds because that's a whole nother story.
Because you weren't eating.
Anyways, 10% off for our listeners. Any Ventum bike, head on over to ventumracing.com/themove. That gets you 10% off. Use the code WEDU, WEDU, 10% off, ventumracing.com/themove.
All right, I can get us back on track here, and maybe we'll lead off with Spencer this time, and Johan, you can chime in. But this, in spite of what everybody thinks, this is not a 2-man race. We've got that. Let's say they are upright and healthy throughout the race. There's a third spot on that podium.
That's a big.
Who are the names in contention for that? We'll start with you, Spencer.
Might be a little controversial, but I think Jai Hindley. Lance was besmirching his name last night, but
no, because God forbid the kid. I mean, the kid's Australian.
Yeah.
Okay, so God forbid he listens to the show. I was not. No, I wasn't. No, hang on. If you guys have bad memories. I was not saying anything. I just said as I was looking at the odds, he had the third best odds, which I sorry. Oh my God. 3 weeks of this, but I was surprised that he was sort of, that's all I said.
Yeah, and
unless that's besmirching. I've never used that word in my life, but
it's a good observation because you look at it, you're thinking, well, that's a little. Why is he up here? Where's Enric Mas? Where's David Gaudu? Where's Thibaut Pinot? And if you like the lead-up races to this, Jai Hindley and Ben O'Connor, the two Australians, were much better than Enric Mas, David Gaudu, Richard Carapaz, people you might normally think would be in the mix for that podium. So it looks strange if you just pop on and look at it like, where are these guys coming from? But also, Hindley's finished on the podium of Grand Tour twice, won a Grand Tour. I don't think many of those guys can say that. Enric Mas certainly can't say that. He's never won a Grand Tour. Right. So the time trial could be a little bit of a problem. Ben O'Connor has an advantage there. Also, JB and I were talking before this, like, what is really going on with Enric Mas and are they just overtrained and they're just going to back it off right?
He was hot early spring.
Yeah, like he came in really, and everyone was thinking, oh, wow, this is an interesting third edition to the Tour. And then he's just been nowhere since then. So it's a little hard to know, but if you're just going off recent form, and Ben O'Connor, I think, is slightly underrated. He was fourth 2 years ago. He got hurt last year. Tore his glute, had to leave the race. But to me, he's like a really underrated rider in the peloton. Like, I think he's extremely strong and a decent time trialist, which is, there's not many time. I think there's only 22 kilometers of time trial in this race. But I think he will, like, that's going to play a major role in this. It's going to be a lot of stalemates in the climbs. I hate to break it to people. That's the way I see it happening. It might be a little boring in the mountains, but the time trials are going to be, with the time trial, singulars, where this is going to be won.
And it's we were looking at it, Spence and I were looking at it earlier. It's a pretty complicated, almost call it technical time trial. It's not very long, but it's another one of these where you're like, is that a road bike? Is that a time trial bike? It's not one of these sort of flat 22 boring time trials. It's hard.
It's 2,000 feet of climbing and 15 miles ish.
Yeah.
So that's serious. That's a lot of climbing. I assume they'll switch onto road bikes. It's like 8% grade for multiple kilometers. They'll probably get rid of the time trial bikes for that. So that's what really hurts, like WEDÖ, Carapaz, even Moss. I mean, those guys are going to be bleeding time. If you watch the Dauphiné, similar time trial. And those guys were just, you would think the climbing would actually help them. It hurts them because the speed differential is higher on a like, let's say a 4 or 5% grade. So anytime it's like that, they're like losing buckets of time, and they might be able to preserve that on a flatter time trial. So their splits were just terrible. Anytime the time trial went uphill at the Dauphiné, they were just losing so much time to these top guys. Like, I probably think that's going to happen. I mean,
this kind of detail, right? The people listening, they're like, Jesus, where's this guy been the whole time? We're going to fucking lose our jobs. This is, Spencer, great. Thanks for being here. We need you to stop talking now. Everyone's like, this is a bunch of knuckleheads. This guy rolls up with a damn PhD or whatever. And
we all like to surround ourselves with smart people.
That's amazing. I agree. I was just sitting here going, preach.
Johan, your thoughts on the rest, that next tier of the bunch behind those top two?
I think Jay Hindley is the logical candidate for the third place based on what we've seen in Dauphiné. Although WEDÖ was fourth last year, apparently he has not really digested his first experience of coming off altitude and then racing. I think WEDÖ's definitely step it up. Carapaz has been third, has won the Giro, has been second in the Vuelta. I don't really know where his form is. He was definitely not good in the Dauphiné. But I think logically, Jay Hindley is a guy he's the leader of his team, and he's shown already that he can be up there in Grand Tours, and I'll put my money on him for the third spot on the podium.
Okay, I just want to be clear. I wasn't busting on the guy.
Let's say you were questioning why the odds were structured the way they were.
If Jai Hindley is listening, just if I could defend myself for just a sec, I don't watch a lot of cycling, so which is actually true. But that's great. I
don't believe he's ever performed well after like June 15th in his career. It makes me a little nervous. Johan did mention that he's never really targeted the Tour, so that could be it. But that's my one question mark about Jai Hindley.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. I do like David WEDÖ. I mean, he's French champion, fourth place last year. So he's got the experience of being in that position. He's got the pressure of the whole country behind him. So it looks like he's got a team built around him for it as well.
George, he's not French champion.
Didn't he win last week?
No, it was Valentin Madouas, the son of
okay. He's also very good. We raced with his dad.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of interesting things before, because I do want to talk about outcomes, and I'm gonna make it a daily thing of letting people know how I'm doing on my bets. Don't get all mad. All right, I'm just keeping it in reason. But I read. This is crazy. It's a true story. I read today that they are going to open up race radio to the public.
Yep.
And so there's 22 teams in the Tour de France. I guess the teams had to either opt in or opt out. 17 opted in. And I think it's a great idea. I don't know who's ever thought of that or talked about it before, but I think it's a pretty good idea. It's
if you're new to the show,
the funny
we've been
thing
harping
is-
on that for years, especially Lance.
It's a delayed broadcast, so it's not going to give away any, any sort of, strategies as it's going on. They delay, and they have a panel of 6 people from the organization that can basically approve what gets let out, which I don't know how they're going to do that, but the information is going to come in delayed. It still could be interesting for people to see that, and I think it's going to be.
Am I allowed to have a little Johan rant about this?
Yes, of course.
well,
but before you have the
you
Johan
do.
rant, the other thing I read too is they're paying each team a whopping
$5,000. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's kind of like an insult. I mean,
Okay, so George, so I don't know how this came, but obviously this is ASO taking advantage of the fact that they own the event, and by definition, they say that they own everything that happens in the event. Many years ago, we have already started negotiating with ASO about who owns actually the footage in the car and the sound in the car. It's really disappointing to see that 20 years later, now finally they have come to an agreement, but for 5,000 euros per team, I find that, as you said, an insult. And, to me, it sounds like there's one person, which is probably the president of the teams union, who has negotiated on everybody's behalf to make this deal. I've checked with a few team managers who are at the tour, and as of today, 2 managers of two of the biggest teams in cycling were not even aware that they were giving away that thing. Anyways, I think it's going to be interesting for the spectators and for the audience. It's just a shame, as if I put my hat on of the team's interests, that it's not taking more seriously. But going to be interesting to see what's going on in the teams.
It's just going to be different. I mean, the reason we've talked about it, and I think it's a good idea, is because the F1, as you watch Drive to Survive, or even the races, if you watch F1, I mean, you're watching that real time, and they're talking about things that I suppose could be shared or strategically used by other teams, but we'll see. It could be a fun experiment. I do think it's a good idea. I don't know if opting in or opting out or making it mandatory. We'll see.
Is this secret? But doesn't everyone listen in anyway? What are they? Everyone just hacks everyone else's radio.
well, I think it's more for.
I know
spectators.
I know we did. I don't know about anybody else.
I never listened to anybody. I never listened to anybody.
Oh, really?
No.
I thought you invented that, Johan. But anyway, I think we should.
Well, just part 2 on that is that not only did this son bitch listen to other people, but he then goes out and finds some radio nerd. We had these other radios. They were slightly heavier that would scramble our communication.
And
So
it helps.
homie-
It helps that Johan is very unique in the sense that he speaks like 18 languages.
yeah, so he
So
understood.
he's the only guy that can understand everybody.
There was a guy speaking
That was so much
Namibian,
fun
and he got
back then. Like we could hear everybody, and we could decide when others heard us or not. It was amazing. It was
I feel like we might edit this part out. We got enough haters out.
No, we can leave it in. It's fine. We don't have to.
You get it all here. You get it all here on the move.
I was kidding. We ain't taking.
We need
shit
to
out.
mention the Americans that are racing.
6 Americans.
6 American: Jorgensen, Simmons, Paulus, Sepkus, Kraddick.
Yeah, Lawson Craddock. Yeah.
Who am I missing?
Will Barta, did you see that?
And Quinn Simmons, national champion.
You said
which
Simmons.
I did say Simmons. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
actually, I rode with
ladies
Quinn.
and gentlemen, this man is extremely
I'm
hungover.
gonna get better and better, y'all. I'm gonna get better and better. Who did I miss then? Said 6.
You're reading them. I don't know.
Did you say Will Barta? Or did I-
I did not say Will Barter. It's on there. So we got an exciting cast of Americans in the race. I rode with Quinn Simmons just like 10 days ago. It's unbelievable how hard these kids train. I mean, actually, shockingly hard.
How was
the guy
his?
was doing a 7.5 hour ride in the
I'm sure
rain.
you talked to him about the tour and how he's feeling.
Yeah, I mean, well, he went through a lot. He was right there when Gino Marta died, unfortunately, and it just really hit him hard. You can imagine descending a mountain with someone who passes away. So it was a tough couple of weeks for him, but he got home, stayed with his family, trained in my neck of the woods, and won the national championships, which was a big goal of his. So I'm really excited to see him. He got a great Tour de France last year. But just amazing.
And he listens to
how
the move, you
hard-
said.
Yeah, he listens to the move.
There we
But
go.
the guy works his ass off. I mean, incredibly dedicated, hard worker.
He's clearly been riding a lot because he hadn't got a haircut. I mean, he's riding. This somebody's riding so much he can't even go get a haircut. I like, he's got the
George-
hard working haircut.
Yep.
Was he planning on doing the tour, or was that
So
just
after-
the last
I
second?
feel like that was
Yeah.
that's.
I think
yeah.
it was. I think
I
it
think
was
he was on the
coming
bubble.
home and trying to, reset the mind after what happened, and ultimately decided to go. But he's got crazy good form right now, and it's gonna be fun to watch him.
He said, I saw a quote of his. He wanted to, now that he has the national champion jersey, the stars and bars, he's motivated to win a stage in the Tour de France with the national champion jersey on. So,
All right.
Let's talk real briefly about outcomes. Tee that up for anybody that wants to, get a little action. And then I was going to have a little fun, JB, and just go around the horn and see if just 2 or 3 things that people are thinking about, question marks or things to look out for. So,
Okay.
But first, let's talk about outcomes, because you guys do the sports betting show, of course. I'm pointing to you, Spencer, and Johan, currently for members only. So you have to be a member or a subscriber to WEDÜ. And all the here in the US, you've got all the platforms, DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, down the line, and you have obviously who's going to win the Tour de France overall. You have every stage, but then you've got a lot of them have head-to-heads, and there's a lot of fun little prop bets too. And I'm assuming you guys talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, Johan was on fire with the head-to-heads at the Giro. Remember that, Johan? We just at the end of every episode, we had him go through, and he was nailing them. Do we want to say who our picks are? We did episode 1 in the GC. We recorded that episode like an hour ago. We feel very strongly about stage 1. Lance, do you want to share?
Yeah,
your action here?
I was looking over your shoulder, and you should see Spencer. He's doing this stuff and got these charts and graphs and shit. And and then I'm texting Johan, of course. And so I went 500 on Pogačar for tomorrow. That pays me
500,000. So that
George was like, before the thing, he's like,
Let me tell the story. I thought I had the best idea. I go, you know what, Lance? I think a great way to promote outcomes, get more people who just, you and I put in some real money for the tour and try to get this, at the end of the tour, promote how much money we made. I'm thinking like a G each. He goes, I already thought about it. I'm putting 100 in. I'm talking 1,000. He's talking 100,000. Oh, bro. Like,
I know you were saying 1,000. I go, I want to play too.
And then I'm like, well, I could we could do it by percentages. I could do like a little percent. No response. Crickets.
no pressure. If we get it wrong, if it's a bad tour, I'm going to Argentina with a fake name. Like I can't come back. So
yeah. So I did, and I hedged it. So my 500 on Pogačar for tomorrow. I do, and I did that after Johan did text me the scoop about just how strong he's riding, and then I hedged a little, and I do think Wout van Aert's going to be there. I think he has carte blanche to be the ultimate team guy, and you can imagine if you just play this out, Pogačar gets away, Vingegaard's there, needs somebody there. I mean, Wout van Aert has to be there, right? I mean, obviously he's got a great team. There could be other guys, so I put 100 on Wout van Aert, and we'll see. So if Pogačar loses, for example, and Wout van Aert were to win, I'd pretty much break even. But y'all will all, you'll see tomorrow.
And you could weight it differently.
Of course.
Like you could even right now just bet on both Vingegaard and Pogačar to win the overall, and you're going to make a small profit. That's the action I like. Lance likes to have the big upside.
Yeah.
You could weight it like more conservatively, where you're eating into some of your profits on Pogačar tomorrow, and put a little bit more on Van Aert, so you would make a profit if both won. Honestly, that's probably that's like, if you really just want to make money gambling, that's like the best way to do it. The most boring possible bets you can do. It's less fun. Like this would be really fun when we're watching tomorrow. Like if Pogačar wins, we're going to feel like heroes for not hedging as much on that.
Okay. Well, yeah, right.
I think what's really fun if people are not familiar with outcomes, when we get further into a grand tour, and it's going to be a breakaway day, you and Johan are so good at identifying those individuals, those that are maybe a contract's ending, they need the win, the team that's desperate for a win, and when the peloton's going to let them go. I think those are, and the odds on them are insane.
Or a team that has a contract that might be ending.
Right.
You want to get an entire group of people motivated, have your title sponsor tell you, good luck next year. You got to find a new one. That the whole program rises then.
And some of these odds, it would be equivalent of like a 16 seed beating a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, which isn't really going to happen. It's happened once ever. But you see the probability of it happening is much higher than the opportunity cost on other sporting events. Like a lot of the margin's just been ground out of like basketball or football or baseball. Like I think Johan, this was like last year, maybe at the Giro, he had the information on someone's contract and how much they were getting paid, and that they weren't happy with the team and they were in the breakaway. And so he knew they wouldn't sit up and wait for their leader, and they almost won the stage. It was like a couple seconds away from winning the stage, and the payout on that was massive. Like It was like a plus 25,000 pick.
Wow. I mean, if that's there you go. Who found this guy? This guy. All right, let's have a little fun before we wrap up. So I just around the horn, just 3 questions or things you're thinking about for this tour, and I'd love to go first since it was my idea, if you don't mind. Because everybody, a lot of people are going to say the same shit. I don't want to be like, well, that's what I was
only
thinking
have
about.
one thing in my hip pocket. Go ahead.
All right, here's my 3. All right, I'm really curious. Number 1, really curious to see how Carapaz does. Leaving Ineos, going to EF. I want to see how and this is a guy, Grand Tour winner, Olympic champion, and we've seen other guys leave Ineos and go other places. I want to see how this works out. That's number 1. Number 2, we've been just clicked 46 minutes on this show, and we have not talked about Mark Cavendish. I'm curious. Obviously, the whole world is curious. Can he get the 35th stage win and break Eddie Merckx's record? I'm mad at all of us that we went 46 minutes and didn't mention it, because we're going to talk a lot about him, certainly the days that suit him or suit the sprinters. And then just, we touched on this, but Pogačar, and I think we got the answer from Johan, how well he's recovered from the broken wrist. And you said it too, JB. I mean, we're talking about 2 guys, but still got to get through the race in 3 weeks. This is a very complicated tour. So those are my 3.
Okay. I was going to bring up the Cavendish thing, so that's covered.
See, that's why I wanted to go first.
I've got one that you'll love. Will Thibaut Pinot get the polka dot jersey?
I ended up liking this.
It's his last season.
His last season after the Tour of Italy, I was really, and he got in a fight with Waters. I was like, you know what? I fucking like this guy. I'm like, you want to get me? And never mind. All right, George.
Well, obviously, Cavendish was top of my mind too. I think like how we posted his when it was on the interview last year, how confident he was that if he was on the tour, he'd get that record-breaking stage win. So I think we all have that same amount of confidence in him. So I'm very excited to see how he does. My other question is, how will Egan Bernal perform? Yeah. Is he close to being back at his level? I'd love to see him back. In fact, I got calls from Colombian radio stations yesterday asking me what I thought. And a team, and what I think is a team like Ineos, they're not going to just bring him to the tour to get his head kicked in. They have the confidence in him that he's at least on his way to recovery and has gotten better. So I'd love it to see him get close to his level that he was in the past. Then thirdly,
but even if he's, I think that's a great point. I mean, even if he's just there in the mountains and showing progress, that's a win.
That's a win, huge win.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited to see how he performs. Thirdly, I'm really questioning to see if Tadej will race differently, because we all thought he made a lot of mistakes last year. Like, why are you sprinting full gas for 10, 12 pace on a mountain stage? 300-400 meter full gas sprints to not even get a second. It was to us, we never understood it. And I feel like that was a big issue in last year's Tour de France for Tadej. And I know that they can't control the guy. He wants to win everything, whether it's a field sprint for 8th or, a Tour of Flanders. He wants to win at everything. But I think you got to start reining him in. He can't be doing these crazy attacks.
You were worried about this little exercise, like picking 3 things. That was really good.
Yeah,
that was. I
think the ketone just hit it.
I mean, I think you better hit another one of those. That was really interesting.
Those are my 3.
Nice work,
man.
Spencer.
I've got the scraps over here.
No, actually, Johan has the scraps, but now, he'll probably wait till now to get.
Johan just hung up.
He's like, it's 12:30 in the morning in Europe. He's gone, but he's probably saving some scoops for his round.
They're still coming in. But my number one, not really my number one now, after you guys took all the good ones, is Peter Sagan going to be relevant? Win a stage? I mean, he had a bad crash drunk driving in Monaco, not fantastic. I don't know, but he's looked. The thing about Sagan is he's irrelevant for all these races, and then I think he was 4th or 5th at Worlds last year. He'll just pull out these amazing results in really hard races. So don't totally write him off. I'm curious to see how he does. Number 2 is Primož Roglič. He's not in this race. I think that's going to be a problem for Jonas Vingegaard. If you remember last year, that's what was the undoing. Building off what George said, Pogačar was wasting energy, and then what really was his undoing was chasing Roglič on stage 11, I believe, when he didn't need to. So if there's no second threat there for Jumbo, and he just has to focus on Jonas Vingegaard, is that going to be a problem for them? Can they pull him out 60K from the finish on the mountain stage like they did last year? I'm not sure they can. I think that they're really going to miss him. And then number 3 would be, man, there's not a lot left here. But number 3 would be, I'm curious to see, I don't want this to be the case. I think it's going to be a time bonus. I think time bonuses might decide this race.
Oh, wow.
Because there's bonification seconds on most of the penultimate climbs. So if UAE can race aggressive enough that they can pull the brakes back before the second to last climbs, they actually took it out for tomorrow's stage because they don't want someone to get those and then take the yellow jersey and not win the stage. But is that going to shape the race? That would be my question. Is UAE strong enough to pin that back, pick up bonus seconds? Because Pogačar is not that much stronger than Vingegaard on long climbs. Throughout their career, I think Vingegaard's only been dropped one time. That was stage 8 of 2021. If you remember that really rainy, crazy stage, he didn't even really know he was the leader. Roglič was still in the race. Pogačar does not drop him that often. So he's going to have to win this race. And the time trial is going to be pretty even if those guys are healthy. So he's going to have to win it with time bonuses.
JB, did you remember that?
I don't.
I hope that's right, by the way. They took away my computer.
These guys do it to me all the time. Oh, yeah. Back in 2016 on stage 4.
I do not remember that. Johan? If you're
there's not much left, guys. By the way, Spencer, that Tour de France that Pogačar dropped Vingegaard in stage, what was it, stage 8, you said?
I think stage 7, Tadej Motoric won. It was that crazy breakaway stage. Stage 8 was the rainy day.
Freaks.
Stage 9 was the team.
It was not Mohoric who won. It was Dylan Teuns who won. But he dropped him on another occasion. I think 2 days later on Tignes, he took a minute out of Vingegaard there.
We're getting old.
So my 3 things is number 1, is Pogačar ready? I think we have the answer with those stats from the time trial. Number 2, will Cavendish win number 35? My answer is yes. And then the third question is, who can be number 3 on the podium? We said Jay Hindley. I have a secret wish, and I think it's possible that the third guy on the
could get a little weird. Keep going.
would be Egan Bernal. I think Egan Bernal. It's the fact that he's at the start of the race is a success. The fact that he's selected by Ineos, I know for a fact that he had big improvement in the last 2 weeks, and I kind of think that he will take this race without any pressure and discover himself day by day. And in the second part of the race, he will come to his best he's been since his crash, and I think he has a shot at the podium.
Wow, that would be a big story.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll be up bright and early. This is this whole first week. I love it. It's going to be exciting.
If you want to get outcomes, which we discussed, go to WEDÖ.team. Season pass is what you want.
Yep.
You can catch it there. You can catch it in real time too.
So all the people that were like, "Man, that Spencer guy is hella smart." That's where you go. That's where you go listen to Spencer.
We'll roll out JB Squared following the move tomorrow, where Johan goes much deeper into tactics and the upcoming day or two. We'll be doing that La Movida in Spanish too. So
that's right.
A lot of choices for you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for having me.